That's going to be our intro. I hope you know that. Welcome to our channel. I'm Tammy.
I'm Morgan.
And today we are going to give some book recommendations of some books. We're going to give some recommendations of some books that you can get into if you are new to reading, or like maybe read a lot when you were younger and now as an adult you want to get back into it. And we're going to break it up by different genres. So we have thriller, romance, historical fiction, and fantasy.
Make sure to like and subscribe for more bookish and tailored content. So starting with a popular thriller book, The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. This is about a woman who was a famous artist, and one day she just randomly shoots her husband and then doesn't talk again for years. And so this therapist is convinced that he can be the one to get her to talk. And it is such a good thriller. I wish I could read it again for the first time.
Yeah, and I would say it was definitely the one that got me into reading as an adult. The Housemaid by Freida McFadden, but pretty much Freida McFadden in general. She writes a really quick, easy thriller. Doesn't take much time to get through it, and you keep wanting to like know what's going to happen. So The Housemaid specifically, it is getting turned into a series or a movie, not really sure which one. Follows Nina, who starts as a housemaid for this family, but the family is off. The wife is really weird. The husband seems to be like mistreated a little bit by the wife. So Nina is not sure what's going on and wants to kind of save the husband a little bit from this terrible wife. And in typical Freida McFadden, you think you know what's going to happen, and then she ends up really pulling the rug from underneath of you. Sometimes it's even in like the epilogue, like you feel like you're like, okay, know what's going on. And then even in the epilogue, she'll throw this twist in there that'll make you just like gasp.
The One by John Mars. This is super fast paced. It has short chapters and a few different characters. So you'll be going through different POVs and kind of just like flying through it to try to figure out what's going on. It's got a little bit of sci-fi and a little bit of romance. And basically what it is there is a DNA test that you can take to find out who your soulmate is. So people all over the world have decided to take this DNA test, whether they're married or not. And so there's a lot of married couples who find out that they are not actually with their soulmate and handle it differently. And then there are some people who think they're straight and they match up with someone of the same sex. There's just all kinds of different crazy situations, and shit kind of hits the fan. It's crazy. But it is so fun and so different than any other thriller that I've read.
For our romance edition, so we would have to talk about Elsie Silver. We can't talk about romance without talking about her. She's one of our favorite authors. She has a couple different series out there. This one is probably the most popular one. It's the Chestnut Spring series. This book is the first one, Flawless. They all follow these cowboys, different brothers, and they all have their own books. So you'll meet some characters in this first book that will be the stars of the next books in the series. It takes place in Canada, so it's got that rugged mountain man vibe, and it has the spiciest of spice. There's one thing that Elsie knows how to do, and it is the spice. So if you love that kind of stuff, but it's also not just spice. You know, the spice doesn't come in until about like 60% of the way. So it has a really good plot. You fall for the characters, and then the spice is just a real added bonus.
Yeah, it's definitely like she makes you work for the spice. Like you're anticipating it.
Yes. Lots of like build up and like a slow burn before you get there.
Mm-hmm. Of course, for romance, we have to mention Abby Jimenez. This is the first in a series, Part of Your World. And Abby is just so great at making you care for the characters that you're reading about. They're going through real issues. They feel like real people that you are just like so invested in their relationships. And they're just so lovable. So I think this is a great place to start as well.
Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. This one is in, I think it's a duology. I'm not sure if there's a third one, but it follows your main character, Persephone, and she has a dual timeline. So you meet her as an adult, and then one, it goes back in time to her summers growing up on a lake, and at the lake house that they go to with her family and the boys that live next door to her. A little bit of a love triangle in there, and it's just a great read for the summertime. So we have our fantasy recommendations. So we've got Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This is a popular one on Book Talk and BookTube. This, if you like the Hunger Games, it kind of has that game dystopian vibe to it. It has a love triangle between a prince and his brother, who's like the king guard or whatever, someone in the military big, and this, poor girl from the wrong side of the tracks. And so the third one just came out in the beginning of April. But there's technically 4 books in the series. There is a small one that kind of does from a different perspective of this book, so called Powerful. So I if you haven't read this yet, I definitely think reading Powerless and Powerful together, you can find the tandem read. If you just Google it, you'll be able to find it. And it makes the story like that much more powerful to be able to read both of them at the same time.
Okay, so this is actually the second book in the series. The first is Belladonna, but this is a trilogy, I believe,
yes.
Right? And it's by Adeline Grace. This is about a woman who seems like she's just kind of like surrounded by death. There are so many people around her that end up dying. And in this, it's like a light fantasy, it's YA. And in this, death is personified. So he is a character, and I think it just makes it so much more interesting.
We have our historical fiction category.
Okay, so we have to talk about Taylor Jenkins Reid, specifically these 2 books, Daisy Jones and the Six and The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So Daisy Jones and the Six is about a fictional band in the 70s and kind of their rise and fall. And it's told in interview style. So if you listen to this on audiobook, it is fantastic. All of the characters are all interviewed, and they all have different actors who play them. And it kind of feels like an E! True Hollywood story. It's very sex, drugs, rock and roll, very fun. Then The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is also a really good audiobook and also interview style. It is about a famous Hollywood star, Evelyn Hugo, and she decides to tell a journalist the story of her 7 husbands and the true love of her life.
Kristen Hanna, she writes some amazing historical fictions. One you'll probably hear a lot about on BookTube and Book Talk is The Nightingale. So this follows 2 sisters during World War II when they're in occupied France, and they're 2 different lives of what they're doing at that time. And then we have The Women, which follows the nurses that were in Vietnam, and the stuff they had to go through while they were there, and also when they came back to the United States.
And then Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. This was one of our favorite books last year. This follows Elizabeth Zott, who is a chemist in the 1950s and 60s, and really just talks about how difficult it was to be a woman in STEM, especially during that time. Not being taken seriously, men kind of trying to take credit for your work, things like that. But Elizabeth ends up starting a cooking show and relating it to chemistry, and it's very interesting. You'll love Elizabeth Zott. She's got a dry sense of humor. She's just such a powerful feminist character, and she's probably my favorite main character I've ever read.
If you've made it this far in our video, leave us a star emoji.
Yeah.